Now, let's get into this extraordinary decision by a US federal judge that blocks White House officials from interacting with social media companies. Joining us now is political journalist John Fund. John, welcome. What do you make of
Pleasure.
this judge's decision?
Well, it is remarkable because the Biden administration continues to claim that it hasn't done anything untoward, despite all the evidence to the contrary. We now know that the Centers for Disease Control, the Department of Homeland Security, the White House itself was both openly cooperating and openly chastising social media companies to censor people, including Nobel Prize winners, including noted physicians. Dr. Fauci and his boss, Dr. Collins at the National Institutes of Health, had an active plan to diminish the reputation of anyone who was challenging them, to basically tell media, don't listen to them. And I believe this judge's decision is actually fairly nuanced. He doesn't say that the administration can't have any communication with social media firms. What he does say is they can't have communication which is about censoring people, diminishing their presence on the internet, and basically interfering with their free speech rights. Obviously, the government has a right to alert people to information and to present its point of view. Does it have a right to actively work with social media companies and the implied threat of government regulation if they don't cooperate, or government sanctions if they don't cooperate? Does it have the right to actively work with them to suppress free speech? That's what the judge was ruling on. This is a very bold, imaginative decision. It's going to be very interesting to see how it's argued after it's appealed. And of course, the Biden administration has said it will appeal.
I mean, we've all seen those emails from White House officials to social media, to Twitter. Remember when Elon Musk came back in and there were those emails with links to tweets that they wanted to be taken down. I mean, this suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story, we just had Miranda Devine on before, but I mean, this was really a huge deal in the 2020 election. How important do you think this is going to be coming into the next election?
Well, it depends if the government's stance changes. Look, what we had with the Hunter Biden story was that not only did the administration, in the case of Twitter, actively try to squelch any discussion and to actually censor, drop the New York Post from its Twitter account because of the having published this story, but they actually had an office at Twitter staffed by FBI agents. So it's not like the White House was calling people up. They had people literally occupying offices at Twitter headquarters to try to coordinate this kind of activity. Now, we know about Twitter because Elon Musk released the messages, but we don't know what really happened at Facebook. We don't know what really happened at Google. We don't know what really happened at Instagram and any of these other social media companies. It might have been far worse than we realized. All we know is at Twitter, it was bad enough, and it was censorship, and it was designed to tilt the 2020 election away from Donald Trump and towards Joe Biden.
And look, I think you're right, an absolutely fascinating decision. And I think it's one that's finally caught up with the modern dilemma of social media and politics. But I wanted to get your thought on another story that's come up this week. A Gallup poll released before Independence Day shows only 31% of Americans have confidence in the US government. 69% say they don't. Do you think that's a reflection on this current administration?
Actually, those numbers have been low for a long period of time. After all, remember, we've had the Iraq War. We've had the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, which was in large part caused by government's bad loan practices and subsidies to mortgage companies and financial institutions. We've had very disappointing deindustrialization in large parts of the country driven by government policy on trade and other issues. So there are lots of reasons to not have confidence in the government. I think that the question going forward is, does America have the capacity to internally reform itself in a direction that people will support it? Or will a small elite, which is lodged in both parties, be able to continue to dominate the political and economic discussion in Washington and pass policies and impose priorities that the people don't want? That's the essence of our republic. Can democratic representation and rule of the people, by the people, and for the people actually occur? Now, I believe that we have that capacity, But I will never forget Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Senate Majority Leader, saying right after the 2016 election, Donald Trump better mind his P's and Q's because our intelligence agencies can get you 5 ways from Sunday if you don't cooperate with them. And I think the veiled message of that is that there is an administrative state. There is a permanent bureaucracy in Washington which doesn't pay a lot of attention to election results because they feel that their interests are the country's interests, and they're going to continue to govern regardless of what the people say. I think that we are making progress because people are better informed than ever. Despite all of this censorship in social media, people are now getting the message that their government is often acting against their interests rather than for their interests.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Now, I wanted to get your thoughts too on this one last topic about the debate, because it is so important, this debate coming up for the Republican candidates. This is going to be the person who's taking on Joe Biden. And I mean, we are looking at potentially another Trump v. Biden election. But one of the criteria for this debate to take part in it is that you do have to take a pledge for the loyalty for the eventual nominee. So neither Trump or DeSantis have said, will they sign the pledge or won't they? I mean, this does seem more important than it's ever been.
Well, if people show up at the debate, it's important. I do not believe that Donald Trump's advisors will tell him that he should go debate. They will look at the polls, which I think measure often name ID more than anything else at this point, because the average American isn't spending a lot of time worrying about the candidates because they haven't started the campaign in their states. So Donald Trump will be told by his advisors, and I think that will be his instinct, I don't have to debate these people. After all, I skipped a couple of debates in 2016, and I still was the nominee. And if he doesn't show up for the Milwaukee debate in August, the air will come out of that balloon very quickly. People won't pay nearly as much attention to it. And if Donald Trump's poll leads hold, why won't Trump try again to skip out of the second debate or even the third debate? He's going to test the waters on this and see if there's a negative public reaction. I don't believe he'll show up in August.
Look, I think you might be right. John Fund, thank you. You always have a nuanced take and know plenty of history to back it up. And so I really appreciate your time.